Good morning, I'm Rosalie, and today we will discover the many moods of Mother Nature and the devastation she can leave behind. Some surprising facts are ready for you about sharks, and how can we conquer pain? With exercise, as well as some great tips to keep our family disease free. Did you know 80% of Americans will seek expert help for back pain at some point of their lives? Lifestyle is the main factor contributing to Americans' back pain, and it's an epidemic. According to the American Physical Therapy Association, 54% of Americans that experience back pain spend their day sitting. The Journal of the American Medical Association found spine pain is the third most costly health condition, trailing diabetes and heart disease. And last year, back and neck pain cost Americans over $87 billion. Joining us this morning to share the 7 rules to saying bye-bye to back pain is Dr. Jeremy James, the director of the Aspen Club Back Institute. Good morning, Dr. James.
Good morning, Rose.
Dr. James, as a young athlete, you struggled with sports-induced back pain. You come from a family of passionate healthcare professionals. Your father and grandfather were doctors, and your mom was a nurse. What inspired you to become a doctor of chiropractic?
Well, Rose, it was because of my experience with pain as a young man, as you said. I went that traditional medical route in the beginning, and I became very frustrated by it. I would only find short-term relief, and it wasn't until I found a chiropractor who was able to give me some significant relief. Now, he didn't end up teaching me the behavioral changes necessary to get permanent relief, but he did give me the idea that that was a path I wanted to take.
So when a patient comes into your institute, where do you start the diagnosis process?
As soon as I see them, I look at the way they get out of a chair, I look at the way they walk back to my office. You know, the diagnosis starts immediately as soon as I see the person. I look at how they're sitting, etc.
So did this inspire you to co-author the Younger Next Year Back book?
It did. I knew Chris Crowley, one of the co-authors of the original book, for a while, and I loved the original book. And I noticed that our philosophies were basically the same, and that is, you know, the original Younger Next Year book said, most of the horrible things associated with aging can be put off till the very end of your life, as if you change your behavior and change your lifestyle. And that's my same approach to back pain. The vast majority of common back and neck pain can be prevented or treated with lifestyle and behavioral change.
The book offers a whole body plan for conquering back pain forever. So share Jeremy's rules that guide readers along the path to help cure back pain.
So the 7 rules basically cover 2 general subjects. One is that you have to stop doing the things that keep your back in a state of agitation and pain, or at least change the way you do those things. And 2 is that you have to rebuild and rebalance your body to give your spine the support it needs. So the 7 rules are basic steps to accomplish those 2 goals. And we try to make them funny and humorous and memorable and easy to relate to. For instance, rule number 1 is stop doing dumb stuff. And that's just a blunt way to tell people to quit doing the things that deep down they probably know are hurting their backs, such as staying slumped over a computer for 8 hours a day or looking at your phone, you know, bent forward for hours on end. So most people know that these things are a problem, but they just don't realize that they have to make these changes permanently in order to permanently get better.
All right, so share some more rules.
Sure. So the stop doing dumb stuff tries to get your back out of that permanent state of agitation. And then the next rule, be still to heal, teaches you how to keep your low back basically still, almost as like if you were putting a broken arm in a cast. You have to somewhat immobilize your spine, especially under load, so that it can heal. So we teach you how to use the muscles in your torso to keep your low back still and learn to move and increase movement from the hips and the shoulders. The next rule is called brace yourself, and that plays upon be still to heal. Brace yourself means learning to use the muscles of the core to keep the spine still as you can go about all activities of your daily life.
So, doctor, is it true that a simple basic move can cause serious damage to our bodies?
It is absolutely true. And just because they don't hurt when you're doing them, doesn't mean you're not doing damage. It typically takes thousands or hundreds of thousands of cycles of poor movement to cause damage. And you're causing damage throughout those 100,000 cycles, but pain doesn't typically occur until you've reached a threshold. So just because you're not hurting now and you're getting away with some of these bad movements like bending and twisting from your low back doesn't mean you're not doing long-term damage.
All right, so what solutions do you offer patients that are very simple adjustments that can be made to relieve back and neck pain as well?
Yes, and typically the treatment for neck pain starts with the same concepts that are in the book about the low back. You have to build the foundation of low back or lumbar spine health first before you can establish stability in the neck. So if I'm treating a neck problem, a shoulder problem, a knee problem, an ankle problem, it all starts in the same place. You have to build proper posture and proper movement patterns, which all start in the lumbar spine. So you start in the same place. The neck just builds upon the concepts that you learn for the low back.
In the book, there are illustrations of various exercises. What exercises work for different targeted areas of back pain?
So the first thing that you have to do is build endurance in the muscles of the core. And when I say core, I mean everything between the shoulders and hips, all the way around your body, front, sides, and back. So the very basic exercises address that goal or try to build towards that goal. So the crunch, for instance, which is not a sit-up, there's a big difference. We can touch on that if you'd like, but the crunch targets the front, the abdominal muscles. Side planks target the muscles on the lateral side of your body. The bird dog exercise targets the muscles on the back. And then we have specific exercise for the muscles in your buttocks, the gluteal muscles.
So what's the difference between a crunch and a sit-up?
A sit-up, you're rounding the lumbar spine, which means the low back. You're bringing your body all the way up and causing a rounding motion in your low back. That's been shown, studies have shown that is actually how you herniate a disc. So you do that a couple thousand times, your discs break down and pop, basically. A crunch, you keep the low back still, and you're just raising the shoulder blades up so that you're getting a contraction in the abdominal muscles, but you're not rounding the low back repetitively.
In the book, there are illustrations of various exercises. What exercises work for different targeted areas of back pain?
Well, I wouldn't quite call it an exercise, but it's a squat. So you do a form of a squat in a lot of daily movements. A squat is basically picking something up, it's getting out of a chair, it's getting out of the car, etc. So teaching people to use their buttock muscles, the gluteal muscles, as they squat can be a game changer for somebody with chronic back pain. So typically on the first day, I try to teach somebody how to squat properly, and if they can learn to use their gluteal muscles when they squat, typically that by itself will relieve quite a bit of back pain just to get them started.
And in high school PE classes, we were taught to bend our knees for squats, to take off the stress off of our ankles. So now we have to relearn this method.
Well, you want to think of it as a squat back instead of a squat down. So a lot of the times what I see in my clinic is I'll have men and women come in and when I tell them to squat, they drop their body straight down and their knees shoot forward. That's terrible for your knees, it's terrible for your back, and most importantly, you're not using the muscles that you're supposed to use, the gluteal muscles. So the key in the beginning is to stick your buttocks behind you as if you were going to sit down in a chair, and then you have to squeeze and use those muscles as you come up.
Thanks, doctor. Your methods and exercises to heal back pain sound easy to add to our everyday life. And I noticed in the book and on your website, I viewed many exercise illustrations. So I'm ready to get proactive to implement these exercises so I can help relieve my neck pain. So tell us, where can we find more information on the book and these exercises?
Sure, you can go to my website. It's www.backforever.com.
All right, thank you, Dr. James, for joining us this morning to give us the resources to conquer back pain forever using the Younger Next to Your Back book.
Thank you, Rose.
Summers are filled with memories of families and friends enjoying fun in the sun activities. During summer break, kids are off to camp or daycare. But one thing is for sure, kids will bring germs and illnesses shared with their playmates home to your household. For those who love a beach day and snacking between dips in the water, think about the germs in the sand and in the water. And how about taking your kids for a play date to an amusement park, a water park, or a visit to a majestic state park as a family? Or if you choose a staycation and play in your own backyard with friends and family and pets, you'll be bringing germs back into your household. So if you're committed to stay active and on the go with your family, you need to be aware of how to avoid spreading disease. The Center for Disease Control has a healthy reminder. Michelle Helavasa is an epidemiologist at the CDC with an important health reminder that will help stop spreading disease.
Hand washing is one of the most important ways you can keep from getting sick and spreading germs to others. Dirty hands spread disease. This hand washing demonstration will show you how hand washing can get rid of germs and chemicals that get on our hands every day. This gel is like the germs and chemicals that we get from things we touch throughout the day, like our toys and pets. If we then rub our eyes, nose, or mouth, or pick up something to eat, the germs or chemicals can get into our bodies and make us sick. Studies have shown that people touch their eyes, nose, and mouth about 25 times every hour without even realizing it. To get rid of these germs and chemicals, CDC recommends you follow these easy steps every time you wash your hands. Wet, lather, scrub, rinse, and dry. We're going to show you the right way to do each step. First, wet your hands with clean running water. Turn off the tap and apply soap. Then, lather your hands by rubbing them together with the soap. Be sure to lather the backs of your hands between your fingers and under your nails. Scrub your hands for at least 20 seconds. If you don't have a clock nearby, keep scrubbing until you've sung the happy birthday song twice. Rinse your hands well under clean running water. Dry your hands using a clean towel, electric hand dryer, or air dry them. Washing your hands using the steps we just demonstrated is very important to get hands completely clean. Let's see how well we got rid of the germs and chemicals.
Great! So, no more germs and chemicals. Now listen up to Michelle and why it's so important to wash your hands.
Why is this so important? Germs and chemicals from unwashed hands can get into our foods and drinks when they're being prepared or when we're eating or drinking them, which can make us sick. Also, germs and chemicals from unwashed hands can be transferred to other objects like cell phones, tabletops, or toys, and then transferred to other people's hands. That's why it's so important to wash your hands following these steps. Wet, lather, scrub, rinse, and dry, so you can stay healthy and help keep those around you healthy.
For more information, visit cdc.gov/hand washing. As you know, we tape right here in Miami, and Florida Fish and Wildlife is our friend. They list as sharks black-tip sharks, bonnet-head sharks, bull sharks, great hammerhead sharks, lemon sharks, nurse sharks, and tiger sharks as common species of sharks found here in the Atlantic waters. For you shark enthusiasts, you'll enjoy some of the facts that are coming up that we're going to cover and some of the research findings to better understand the most unique shark species in the world. Joining us this morning is George Burgess, one of the top shark attack experts in the world and the director of the University of Florida Program for Shark Research, to offer some insight into the world of sharks. Good morning, George.
Good to be with you.
So, George, what compelled you to become a shark attack expert?
Well, I was drawn to sharks as a youngster, lived always near the coast, and was fortunate to be one of those kids that actually grew up to be what he wanted to be. And so I was fortunate in that. Once I got into sharks, obviously shark attacks a phenomenon that draws a lot of interest from the public as well as from scientists. And so it was sort of a natural that I got into it since I was living in Florida, which is the shark attack capital of the world.
George, you have a unique way of documenting sharks through your Shark Attack File. Tell us about this file.
Sure. The International Shark Attack File is a compendium of investigations of shark attacks of the world, going back as far as we can go back. And our earliest attacks were in the mid-1500s. And each attack that occurs anywhere in the world, we investigate, much like the police investigate a crime. And the idea of all this is to get the factors involved in shark attack from the perspective of both the human and the shark and the environment. And by looking at thousands of these cases, we're able to see patterns which allow us to offer some suggestions as to how to reduce the risk.
All right, so you remind people that there is a ratio that is surprising about shark attacks. What is that?
Absolutely. On average, in the recent decade, about 6 people die a year in the mouths of sharks. By contrast, we're killing anywhere from 30 to 100 million sharks a year in fisheries. So you make a ratio of that, and it's more than 10 million to 1 sharks dying for every human dying as a result of a shark. So it's pretty clear who's the attacker and who's the victim in that relationship.
So what makes the Atlantic coastline of Florida so attractive to sharks?
First of all, it's got nice warm waters. It's subtropical to tropical waters. It's a very long coastline. If you stretched Florida's coastline up the East Coast, you go all the way up to New York or southern New England, so it's a large coastline. We have a large population, of course, in Florida, the 3rd largest population in the country. None of us live more than an hour and a half away from the water, one way or another, either the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean. And of course, we have the largest tourist population of anywhere else in the world. So put all that together, and it means we've got lots of people in the water, in waters that are nice and warm, that are attractive to sharks, and so we're going to have more of these incidents.
So why are we seeing more shark attacks in the U.S.?
We're seeing more sharks in Florida and in other places around the U.S. in part because fishery management measures that have been put into effect by both federal and state governments have slowed the decline, which we had seen for years, and some of these populations are beginning an upward return to recovery. And so we're seeing more sharks because of that, but we're also seeing more because we as humans are out there taking pictures and posting things in social media. So sharks don't get away as easy as they used to.
So tell us, what is being done to protect and manage the shark population throughout the U.S.?
The key is that overfishing has been the problem for shark populations around the world, not just in Florida. And of course, the situation in Florida is tied heavily to other areas around the southeastern United States because sharks are highly migratory. They move from one place to another, and they don't honor state boundaries. So federal regulations have addressed sharks on the whole Atlantic seaboard. Within the state of Florida, the nearshore sharks have been addressed by the FWC, the Game and Fish Commission, which both have set catch limits, and those catch limits have effectively stalled that downward decline and, in fact, have allowed certain species, such as blacktip sharks, to begin recovery.
So tell us how we can increase public awareness of how to avoid a shark attack.
Well, first of all, we need to understand that when we enter the sea, it's a wilderness experience. It's not like going into our backyard pool. And anytime we enter a wilderness, we know that there's a certain risks that are associated with entering that wilderness. If we go to Africa, we know that there's lions and cheetahs and elephants that can do us harm. If we go to the Rockies, we know there's mountain lions and bears. So we accept risk when we enter the sea. Obviously, we know we can drown. And there's things such as jellyfish that can sting us, or stingrays that we step on, or the occasional shark that bites us. And so we have to accept those risks. That said, once we know that we're going to accept a risk, our next step is how are we going to reduce those risks? And through education, in programming, just like we're doing right here, we try to get the message out to humans. How do we reduce those risks? And certain things we can do that. For instance, stay together in groups. Don't go in the water between dusk and dawn when sharks are most active. Avoid areas such as inlets and channels where sharks tend to aggregate. And obviously get out of the water if you see sharks or schooling fishes or fishermen are fishing.
So what do you tell the public if they feel that they are unavoidably going to be attacked by a shark?
Well, obviously the first thing is if you're being attacked, get out of the water if you can. That's always the final thing that we want to do is get out of the water. But that said, if a shark is approaching you in an aggressive way, I advise to smack it on its snout. More times than not, the shark will swerve out of its way. If you get them on the nose, and again, you try to get it out of the water. But that said, the nose is located very close to the mouth, so be careful that you're accurate when you swing at them. Finally, if you're actually in the mouth of a shark and being bitten, the eyes and the gill slits, which are located just behind the eyes, are both very sensitive areas. And if you probe those areas with your fingers, you might get the shark to let go of you.
All right, so share some exciting facts about SharkFest.
Oh, there's a variety of different shows that are being offered on individual sharks, such as tiger sharks, and on hammerhead sharks. There's shows addressing certain phenomena, such as why some sharks tend to aggregate together at certain places. And there's a variety of other shows that are addressing shark conservation and sort of debunking some of the myths.
The amazing world of sharks. Thanks, George, for sharing all of your shark expertise to help us better understand sharks and why they attack.
Good to be with you.
The Atlantic hurricane season is an ongoing event in the annual formation of tropical cyclones in the northern hemisphere. The season officially begins on June 1st and will end on November 30th. These dates historically describe the period each year when most tropical cyclones form in the Atlantic basin. But did you know tropical cyclogenesis is possible at any time of the year, as shown by the formation of subtropical storm Alberto on May 25th, marking the fourth consecutive year in which a storm developed before the official start of the season? Well, I can tell you, I'm a seasoned Floridian who's not new to tropical storms or hurricanes. In fact, my biggest lesson in life was the impact from Hurricane Andrew, which made landfall 26 years ago as a Category 5 storm and laid to waste many suburb areas of Miami, including where I lived. Miami suffered hours of Hurricane Andrew's abuse, which tore off roofs with 175-mile-per-hour winds, one of only 3 Category 5 hurricanes recorded at that time. And a Cat 5 is the highest category on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale to hit the U.S. And it was the first since 1969's Hurricane Camille. Andrew's fast-moving, tightly wound hurricane tore through South Florida in the middle of the night, leveling entire neighborhoods, tossing around boats and tractor trailers and mobile homes. And Andrew left millions of people without power or hope. Little did the population know Andrew's legacy was far-reaching than most would have ever believed. The storm exposed Florida's shoddy construction practices and broken emergency response system in Washington. The damage from the storm led to sweeping changes in states' building codes and the insurance industry and the role of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I must say I'm proud to say I was a volunteer during that disaster with Miami-Dade Police Video Service Unit. I worked Alpha Bravo shift with county, local, and regional agencies, all teaming up to work together. This was my greatest education in broadcast journalism. Nothing was more humbling than living out a real-life disaster. I drove with law enforcement through war-torn looking neighborhoods and witnessed firsthand looting of stores, desperate citizens looking for water to hydrate, citizens handing out clothing at local centers, and I also felt the anxiety of first responders who lost their homes and communication with their spouses and children. This experience ignited my career in journalism to be a passionate journalist. Miami's shocking devastation of post-Andrews wrath was a reminder of the forces of Mother Nature. According to the National Hurricane Center, the 10 most hurricane-prone states are number 1, Florida, number 2, Texas, followed by Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, New York, and Virginia. Since 1851, 40% of hurricanes hit Florida. Being prepared for any natural disaster is essential, including the fires in California. You must have a plan to evacuate quickly and safely. And if you have a special needs plan, how do you get yourself into the shelter? And be prepared to explain to first responders that you need to evacuate and choose to go to a shelter with your family, service animal, caregiver, or personal assistant. And if you need assistive technology devices, gather medications and supplies. Before leaving, contact anyone that is a part of your support system so that you have a communications plan. Take seriously the message from Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen from the Department of Homeland Security.
Once-in-a-lifetime disaster can, in fact, happen at any time, and so I really urge every American to take this hurricane. But look at the maps before. There's a multiple of apps that can help you do that, and find out how you're going to communicate with your family during the disaster. As we know, some communication methods don't work, so having a plan for how you can get back in touch and understand where they are and where you are is important.
From the mysteries of marine life to the unexpected effects of a natural disaster, life is filled with myths and mysteries of nature to better understand so that we can prepare for the safety of ourselves and our family. Share with us your plan to achieve a healthy spine while balancing the unpredictable risks of Mother Nature at facebook.com/Rose Lee Show. And follow us on Instagram at The Rose Lee Show, and watch this episode and many others here on Discovery Life or 24/7 at RoseleeArcherShow.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.